Picture a darkness so profound that it swallows the very architecture of the cosmos, leaving behind a silence that stretches for hundreds of millions of light years. In a universe defined by the violent birth of stars and the frantic collisions of blazing galaxies, there exists a hidden monument to absolute emptiness. This colossal anomaly challenges everything we thought we knew about the dawn of creation, proving that the early universe was not a smooth tapestry, but a fractured landscape harbouring unimaginable absences. If we were to look closer, we would witness photons of ancient light gliding through this immense territory with a terrifying, frictionless purity. These solitary beams of energy travel for uninterrupted eons without ever brushing against a single atom of dust or wandering gas. They preserve the ancient, fiery history of the distant stars in a state of perfect, unbothered grace, carried across a vacuum that refuses to interfere. Surprisingly, this massive vacancy is not a mere flaw or a tear in the cosmic design, but a necessary structural foundation. It holds the surrounding, blindingly bright superclusters in a delicate gravitational balance, acting as the silent counterweight to the heavy metropolis of the cosmic web. The sheer existence of this uninterrupted vacuum forces cosmologists to completely refine their models of how microscopic quantum fluctuations grew into the grandest physical structures of reality. Imagine the sudden, humbling awe of realizing that the most powerful force shaping our brilliant night sky is actually the staggering volume of the quiet spaces between the lights. To comprehend this space, one must feel the profound, echoing stillness of dropping a single, smooth pebble into a vast and unmoving ocean. The ripples fade away instantly, swallowed by a depth and a tranquility that the human mind can barely begin to measure. This cosmic structure now invites you to release the heavy, exhausting weight of the waking world and surrender to the slow, steady rhythm of the deep. Let your breathing match the patient, eternal expansion of the fabric of space-time itself. You are safe. These wonders are yours to inherit as you sleep. Notice how the gravity of your daily life simply dissolves into the mattress, replaced by the gentle buoyancy of a mind ready to drift across the ultimate frontier. The grand journey ahead requires absolutely no effort, only the quiet willingness to close your eyes and let the vastness carry you away into the night. Deep within the constellation of the herdsman lies a spherical region of space, almost entirely devoid of galaxies, an anomaly that challenges our understanding of the cosmos. Deep within the constellation of the herdsman lies a spherical region of space, almost entirely devoid of galaxies, an anomaly that challenges our understanding of the cosmos. To comprehend this space, one must picture the profound stillness of dropping a single smooth pebble into a vast, unmoving ocean. The ripples fade into an expanse so absolute that the origin point is swallowed by an overwhelming quiet. While the night sky suggests a universe packed tightly with stars, dust, and swirling galactic disks, this particular sector refuses to conform. It presents a haunting vacancy where the fundamental building blocks of the universe seem to have vanished or never formed at all. Gaze toward Boötes, and you're not looking at a physical object, but rather a colossal shadow cast by nothingness. This spherical pocket of isolation forces the mind to grapple with the concept of pure emptiness on a macroscopic scale. It is a quiet testament to the uneven, patchy nature of cosmic evolution. Within this specific territory, the vibrant tapestry of the universe simply unravels into threadbare dark. This structure spans a staggering 330 million light-years across, a measurement that fundamentally breaks human intuition regarding distance and scale. If you were to trace a line from one edge of this spherical void to the absolute opposite side, the journey would encompass an almost unimaginable stretch of pure, uninterrupted vacuum. Even in a universe defined by extreme proportions, this specific region stands out as a titan of emptiness. Consider the sheer volume required to hold such a distance. It is not merely a gap between neighbouring star systems, but a colossal chasm that separates entire galactic superclusters. The boundaries of this space are so far apart that the light from a galaxy on one perimeter would take hundreds of millions of years just to reach the other side. Such an immense diameter means that the curvature of the void itself is remarkably gentle, like the inside of a massive cosmic balloon. The sheer vastness dictates that any matter trapped within the centre is entirely isolated from the gravitational influence of the walls. It is a lonely expanse where the normal rules of cosmic density are suspended. Astronomer Robert Kirshner and his team first discovered this massive anomaly in 1981, forever altering our map of the known universe. During a rigorous survey of galactic redshifts, the researchers expected to find a somewhat uniform distribution of galaxies, much like a steady snowfall across a winter landscape. Instead, their instruments returned a shocking gap in the data, a sudden plunge into absolute quiet that defied all prevailing cosmological models of the time. At first, the sheer lack of signals seemed like a mistake in the survey methodology or a localized blind spot. However, as the team meticulously cross-referenced their observations, the terrifying reality of the void became mathematically undeniable. They had stumbled upon a region where the standard architecture of the cosmos was missing, replaced by a ghost town of epic proportions. The publication of their findings sent shockwaves through the astronomical community, forcing a rapid re-evaluation of how matter clumps and clusters over billions of years. Kirshner's discovery proved that the universe was not a smooth, homogeneous fluid, but rather a complex foam-like structure. This singular observation opened the door to the modern study of cosmic voids. Representing nearly 2% of the diameter of the observable universe, its sheer scale defies everyday comprehension and humbles even the most advanced supercomputers. When we consider that the observable universe contains billions of galaxies, the realization that such a significant fraction of it is essentially empty is a profound paradox. This single feature is so massive that it challenges the cosmological principle, which suggests the universe should look roughly the same in all directions on a large scale. To visualize 2% of infinity is a paradox in itself, but in the finite realm of the observable cosmos, it is a glaring omission of matter. It is as if a cartographer mapping a continent discovered a perfectly circular desert, taking up a massive chunk of the terrain. The structural integrity of the cosmic web seems to simply bypass this monumental sphere. The void is so large that it influences the gravitational trajectory of the very galaxy clusters that form its borders. Its negative pressure, born of its emptiness, gently nudges matter away, contributing to the delicate balance of the universe's architecture. It is an enduring monument to the power of empty space. To cross it at the speed of light would take hundreds of millions of years of uninterrupted travel, a journey through a darkness more profound than anything experienced on Earth. Even travelling at the absolute speed limit of the cosmos, nearly 300,000 kilometers per second, a hypothetical spacecraft would find itself adrift in an unchanging, featureless ocean for eons. The sheer duration of this voyage highlights the isolating nature of the supervoid. During such an expedition, looking out the window would yield an agonizingly static view. The distant galaxies forming the walls of the void would appear only as the faintest of smudges, neither growing noticeably larger nor receding for millions of lifetimes. There would be no stellar landmarks, no nebulae to navigate by, only the chilling embrace of a perfectly empty vacuum. This hypothetical journey underscores the severe detachment of any matter trapped inside. Time and distance lose their typical meaning when there are no reference points to measure progress against. It is a passage through a physical realm where the universe simply holds its breath. Imagine a sphere so large that our entire Milky Way galaxy would be less than a grain of sand within it, a humbling comparison that puts our cosmic neighbourhood into perspective. The Milky Way, with its hundreds of billions of stars, planetary systems and towering nebulas, is a massive entity by human standards. Yet, if you were to drop our entire galaxy into the centre of the Boötes Void, it would be utterly swallowed by the immense volume of nothingness. Our vibrant, spinning disk of light would become a microscopic island in an ocean of dark. The vast spiral arms and the supermassive black hole at our core would exert no meaningful gravitational pull on the distant edges of the void. We would be a solitary beacon shining into an abyss that stretches out mercilessly in every conceivable direction. This stark contrast between our rich, clustered environment and the profound emptiness of the void is staggering. It serves as a reminder that the densely populated regions of the universe are the exception rather than the rule. The true dominant feature of the cosmos is the staggering volume of the silent spaces between. Volume-wise, it encapsulates roughly 236,000 megaparsecs cubed of profound emptiness, a volumetric measurement that pushes the boundaries of astrophysics. A single parsec is already a daunting distance, equal to over 3 light-years, but scaling this up to millions of cubic megaparsecs creates a number that escapes human imagination. This three-dimensional well of nothingness contains a volume so vast it could comfortably house billions of average-sized galaxies. Instead of galaxies, however, this colossal arena is filled only with the faintest traces of intergalactic gas and the ghostly presence of dark matter. The density of particles in this volume is so incredibly low that atoms may travel for years without ever colliding. It is a realm of extreme dilution, where the fundamental ingredients of the universe have been stretched to their absolute breaking point. This sheer volume guarantees that the internal environment remains pristine and undisturbed by the chaotic energy of galaxy formation. There are no supernovas to blast heavy elements through the dark, no quasars to illuminate the dust. It remains a tranquil, untouched reservoir of empty volume preserved from the chaotic early days of the cosmos. The distance from Earth to this quiet region is approximately 700 million light-years, a gap that ensures we are looking deeply into the past whenever we observe it. Because light has a finite speed, the image of the void we capture today actually left the constellation of Boötes hundreds of millions of years ago, before complex life even crawled onto land on our planet. We are viewing an ancient portrait of emptiness. Bridging this gap requires our most powerful telescopes to stare unflinchingly through the dusty, crowded arms of our own galaxy. Observers must peel back the layers of local stars and neighbouring clusters to peer into the deep background where the void resides. The sheer distance acts as a veil, making the precise mapping of the void's interior an incredibly complex astronomical puzzle. Despite being so incredibly far away, the void exerts an undeniable influence on our understanding of the cosmic neighbourhood. It acts as a massive counterbalance to the dense superclusters that string along the nearby universe. Looking across those 700 million light-years is like looking across an ocean to see the edge of the world. Early observers initially thought their instruments were failing when they looked into this dark patch, an understandable reaction to an impossible absence of data. Telescopes and sensors designed to pick up the faint, telltale signatures of distant starlight were suddenly returning a chilling silence. For astronomers accustomed to finding galaxies wherever they pointed their lenses, this abrupt drop-off seemed like a clear indication of a mechanical or computational error. Calibration tests were run, lenses were checked, and coordinates were verified, yet the dark patch remained stubbornly empty. The researchers had to confront the terrifying possibility that their equipment was working perfectly, and it was the universe itself that was behaving anomalously. It took a significant paradigm shift to accept that the data was not missing. The absence of data was the discovery itself. This moment of profound doubt highlights the deeply ingrained human expectation of a populated universe. It took the undeniable proof of this massive void to shatter those preconceptions. The initial confusion of those early observers eventually blossomed into one of the most fascinating fields of modern cosmology. Surprisingly, the universe allows for such immense pockets of stillness amidst the chaotic swirl of cosmic matter, proving that empty space is an active, dynamic participant in reality. We often picture the cosmos as a violent, energetic place, filled with colliding galaxies, erupting stars and devouring black holes. Yet, the existence of the Boötes Void demonstrates that absolute tranquility is also a fundamental pillar of the cosmic architecture. This stillness is not merely an accident, but a necessary consequence of the way the universe expands and structures itself. The void acts as a pressure release valve for the dense, overpopulated regions of the cosmic web. It is the necessary canvas upon which the bright chaotic strokes of galactic clusters are painted. Understanding this immense pocket of quiet fundamentally changes how we view the night sky. The true majesty of the cosmos lies not just in the brilliant burning stars, but in the majestic silent spaces that separate them. It is within these vast dark expanses that the true staggering scale of our universe is most profoundly felt. That staggering scale is not defined merely by the dark expanse itself, but by the magnificent glowing borders that frame its quietude. Surrounding this grand emptiness are incredibly dense walls, formed by thousands upon thousands of galaxies, holding the darkness in a brilliant embrace. These towering structures act as the ultimate cosmic shoreline, where the stormy sea of stellar creation abruptly ends and the serene vacuum begins. If we were to look closely at these boundaries, we would see a chaotic frenzy of gravitational interaction sharply contrasted against the inner peace. The galaxies here are packed closely together, sharing their energetic glow and illuminating the edge of the great dark. It is a stunning visual paradox where the highest concentrations of cosmic matter exist immediately adjacent to the absolute lowest. This dramatic shift from intense congestion to utter isolation happens over a relatively short cosmic distance. The walls do not gently fade into the void, but rather form a sheer cliff face of starlight plunging into an invisible abyss. To stand on the edge of one of these boundary galaxies would offer a view divided perfectly between blinding luminescence and bottomless night. Filaments of invisible dark matter and superheated gas weave together to create the intricate borders holding this isolated space intact. Picture the delicate, dew-covered threads of a spiderweb catching the morning light, each strand a vital structural lifeline. In the cosmos, these invisible strands form the essential scaffolding upon which the visible galaxies anchor themselves to avoid drifting into the deep. This hidden webbing is far more massive than the glowing stars it supports, dictating the shape and flow of the entire region. The gas running along these dark matter threads acts like glowing morning dew, highlighting the immense interconnected network stretching across the void's perimeter. It is a fragile yet unbreakable cage woven from the oldest materials in the universe. Without this intricate structural weave, the galaxies would scatter and the sharp borders of the emptiness would blur into obscurity. The dark matter filaments provide the necessary tension to keep the surrounding superclusters tightly bound, while preserving the sanctity of the interior. It is a masterpiece of cosmic engineering, held together by forces we can only observe through their gravitational shadows. Gravity slowly pulls matter away from the center of the void, reinforcing its profound isolation over billions of years of cosmic evolution. Instead of drawing things inward as it does in a dense cluster, the gravitational dynamic here works entirely in reverse. The sheer mass of the surrounding walls exerts a continuous, outward tug on any stray particles lingering in the middle. As you visualize this slow, outward pull, let your shoulders drop, sinking deeper into the comfortable stillness of your resting space. Just as tension slowly drains from a relaxed muscle, the matter inside the void is gradually drawn away toward the energetic perimeters. It is a continuous, gentle evacuation that ensures the interior remains practically untouched by the chaos of star formation. This outward migration means that the void is actively cleaning itself, sweeping its dark floors clear of dust and wandering gas. Over unimaginable spans of time, the already sparse population of internal elements is steadily depleted, adding to the mass of the bright boundaries. The emptiness is not a static condition, but an actively maintained state of supreme, gravitational quiet. The architecture of the entire cosmos ultimately resembles a three-dimensional sponge, where the voids serve as the essential porous gaps. We often imagine the universe as a scattered field of objects, but it is much more accurate to view it as a solid, interconnected structure hollowed out by massive pockets of nothingness. The solid parts of the sponge represent the galactic filaments, while the negative spaces are the dominant quiet territories. Within this porous geometry, the pockets of empty space actually account for the vast majority of the total volume. The glowing galaxies are merely the thin structural membranes wrapping around immense dark bubbles. Recognizing this spongy nature shifts our perspective, revealing that emptiness is the primary architectural feature of reality rather than a mere absence. The interconnected nature of the solid filaments ensures that a traveller could theoretically cross the universe without ever entering a void. However, to truly understand the overall shape and behaviour of the cosmos, one must study the massive quiet spaces that give the sponge its form. The dark gaps are what dictate the overarching design of everything we can see. It stands proudly as one of the largest known supervoids ever comprehensively mapped by humanity, a titan among an already giant class of structures. While smaller pockets of emptiness are common throughout the cosmic sponge, finding a contiguous region of this magnitude is exceptionally rare. It represents an extreme outlier in the distribution of matter, pushing the limits of what astrophysical models consider possible. Charting the intricate, curved boundaries of this specific anomaly requires tracking the movements and positions of millions of individual star systems. Astronomers must meticulously connect the dots of the surrounding galactic walls to define the exact shape of the nothingness they contain. It is a monumental task of mapping the invisible by carefully tracing the edges of the visible. The scale of this mapped territory forces scientists to constantly reconsider the timeline of the early universe's expansion. To clear such an enormous singular volume of space requires an uninterrupted process spanning nearly the entire age of the cosmos. It stands as a colossal dark monument to the slow, steady march of cosmic time. Picture the surrounding galaxy clusters as vibrant, glowing cities linked tightly together by sprawling cosmic highways. These dense nodes are buzzing metropolises of cosmic activity, filled with colliding stellar systems, brilliant nebulas, and furious starbirth. The filaments connecting them act as intergalactic supply routes, channeling raw gas and energetic material from one busy hub to another. Take a slow, deep breath in, feeling the steady, calming rhythm of your own pulse mirroring these slow cosmic cycles. Allow your breathing to anchor you as we observe the chaotic, brilliant traffic flowing constantly around the perimeter of the Great Dark. This ceaseless flow of matter and energy stands in stark defiance of the absolute stillness sitting just across the boundary. These luminous cities are the centres of cosmic commerce, where the raw materials of the universe are continuously recycled and forged into heavier elements. The density of these regions guarantees a violent dynamic environment, where peaceful isolation is entirely impossible. They represent the ultimate noisy counterpoint to the silent sanctuary they enclose. Notice how the sheer absence of matter in the centre creates a striking, beautiful contrast against these bustling metropolitan nodes. The brilliance of the surrounding walls is magnified exponentially by the pitch-black canvas they sit upon. It is akin to a ring of roaring bonfires surrounding a perfectly still, unlit lake in the dead of winter. This dichotomy highlights the extremes of the universe's creative and destructive forces existing side by side. On one side of the boundary, intense gravitational pressure crushes gas into blazing fusion reactors, while on the other, near-perfect vacuum reigns supreme. The dividing line between these two realms is a testament to the localized, clumpy nature of reality. Without the overwhelming darkness of the interior, the structure of the surrounding galaxy clusters would be far more difficult to decipher. The void provides the ultimate negative space, allowing the intricate, glowing details of the cosmic web to be seen with breathtaking clarity. The emptiness serves as the perfect, unobtrusive background for the universe's most complex luminous artwork. The renowned Hercules supercluster forms a prominent, sweeping part of the glowing boundary, keeping the deep void safely contained. This massive congregation of galaxies acts as a heavy, shining retaining wall, holding back the expansion and dictating the curvature of the dark space. It is one of the most structurally significant anchors in this local region of the cosmic web. Deep within this specific supercluster, thousands of diverse galaxies orbit a shared center of mass in a complex gravitational ballet. Their combined weight exerts a tremendous influence, ensuring the edge of the void remains sharply defined and deeply entrenched. It is a stunning example of how localized density directly shapes the macrostructure of the surrounding emptiness. Studying this massive bordering structure provides crucial clues about the historical formation of the void itself. The galaxies within the supercluster carry the chemical and kinetic signatures of a long, violent process of evacuation. They are the accumulated debris swept to the side by the relentless clearing of the dark interior. An unseen force known as dark energy is actively stretching the space within the void at a slowly accelerating rate. While gravity pulls matter toward the walls, this mysterious phenomenon works from within, causing the actual fabric of the empty space to expand. It is an internal pressure pushing outward, inflating the dark pocket like a breath filling a silent balloon. This accelerating stretch means the void is constantly pushing against the luminous boundaries that surround it. The dark energy acts as a wedge, slowly driving the opposing walls of galaxies further apart over billions of years. It is a silent, invisible engine driving the evolution of the cosmic architecture from the inside out. Over unfathomable stretches of time, the void will continue to gently expand as the surrounding walls are pushed further and further apart. The vibrant cosmic cities on the perimeter will slowly recede from one another, their connecting highways stretching thin. As the space between them swells, the contrast between the dark interior and the glowing edges will only become more profound. Yet, as profound as this dark interior appears from a distance, peering deeply into its depths reveals a surprising truth. Despite its ominous classification as an absolute emptiness, this vast region is not entirely devoid of cosmic structures. It is not a perfect, unbroken vacuum, but rather an incredibly sparse desert holding tightly to a few precious oases. Picture a single candle burning gently in the center of a massive, darkened cathedral, its faint light stubbornly resisting the overwhelming shadows. This is the sensory reality of the interior, where rare, luminous islands of matter stubbornly persist against the odds. The presence of these solitary beacons fundamentally shifts our understanding of the void from a dead zone to a highly selective sanctuary. These rare structures challenge the assumption that the outward gravitational pull of the walls strip the center completely bare. They are the survivors of a grand cosmic evacuation, lingering in the deepest, most quiet pockets of the abyss. Their very existence proves that even in the most hostile regions of space-time, the universe still finds a way to weave the fabric of creation. Through decades of meticulous observation, scientists have discovered a small, exclusive population of roughly 60 galaxies scattered randomly throughout the immense dark. This handful of star systems constitutes one of the rarest, most isolated galactic clubs in the known universe. Finding them requires peering through the faint foreground dust with an almost meditative patience, sifting through an ocean of black pixels for a single, blurry smudge of light. Each of these discovered galaxies represents a monumental triumph of modern observational astronomy. They do not form interactive clusters or grand structural chains, but instead exist as highly individualized specks, disconnected from any larger cosmic tapestry. To map their locations is to draw a constellation of supreme isolation, a sparse scattering of dust motes suspended in a cathedral of night. Allow the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest to ground you as you consider the overwhelming rarity of these celestial outposts. The stillness of your own body mirrors the serene, undisturbed environment these few dozen galaxies inhabit. They float in a state of perpetual calm, entirely removed from the furious cosmic traffic that defines the rest of existence. If we were to look closer at the spatial relationship between these isolated galaxies, we would find them separated by unimaginable distances. The gulf between any two of these lonely oases often stretches across tens of millions of light years. It is a level of spatial distancing on a cosmic scale, guaranteeing that these neighbours will likely never exchange so much as a single stray comet. To journey from one of these interior star systems to its closest peer would take a hypothetical traveller longer than the current age of our solar system. The intervening space is a perfectly sterile ocean, completely devoid of the usual intergalactic stepping stones like rogue stars or dwarf galaxies. They are islands where the surrounding waters are infinitely deep and perfectly still. Notice how this extreme separation fosters an environment of absolute gravitational independence. There are no powerful tidal forces pulling at their edges, no larger superstructures dictating their orbital paths. Each galaxy is a sovereign domain, ruling quietly over a vast spherical territory of absolute nothingness. To truly appreciate this scarcity, one must compare it to the standard distribution of matter found elsewhere in the cosmos. A typical region of space possessing this colossal volume would normally contain a couple of thousand closely packed galaxies. It would be a sprawling, chaotic metropolis of starlight, woven together by thick, glowing tendrils of primordial gas. The glaring discrepancy between the expected thousands and the mere handful actually highlights the severe nature of this cosmic desert. It is a localized failure of the universe's standard operating procedure, a massive area where the typical recipe for structure formation was halted or disrupted. The missing multitudes are likely the very same galaxies now making up the dense glowing walls holding the perimeter. Let your limbs sink slightly heavier into your resting place, embracing the profound emptiness that replaces those missing swarms of stars. The sheer absence of those expected star systems creates a breathtaking localized silence. It is a monumental quietude, achieved only by the systematic removal of nearly everything that makes the universe shine. Because of their extreme isolation, the galaxies existing here lead incredibly solitary lives, untouched by the violent events that shape their clustered cousins. In denser regions, galaxies are constantly locked in gravitational combat, tearing at each other's outer spirals and frequently colliding in spectacular explosive mergers. Within the Great Dark, however, such cosmic collisions are fundamentally impossible. Without neighbours to interact with, these systems will never experience the shockwaves of a close encounter or the chaotic blending of alien starfields. Their histories are remarkably straightforward, devoid of the dramatic, transformative mergers that typically drive galactic evolution. They exist in a state of arrested development, a pristine time capsule preserving the initial conditions of their birth. This peaceful, solitary existence allows them to maintain a gentle, internal rhythm, free from external interference. They are the hermits of the cosmos, quietly tending to their own internal stellar fires far from the noise of the crowd. Their isolation is not a tragedy, but a rare privilege of absolute undisturbed peace. These isolated star systems often form from the incredibly sparse gas, remaining stubbornly in the deepest, most stagnant parts of the void. While the majority of matter was pulled outward to the walls, small localized pockets of primordial hydrogen managed to resist the slow evacuation. Over billions of years, these meager clouds gently coalesced, relying on perfect stillness rather than intense pressure to ignite starbirth. Breathe in deeply, visualizing this slow, patient accumulation of delicate, invisible gas pulling together in the dark. As you exhale, imagine the gentle ignition of a first generation of stars, a soft spark blooming in the middle of nowhere. This delicate genesis proves that beauty and light can emerge from even the most impoverished, empty environments. Zwicky 81 is one specific example of such a galaxy, drifting quietly far from any bustling cluster or luminous highway. It sits as a lone sentinel in the vastness, a beautiful, self-contained system wrapped tightly in its own faint halo of unseen mass. Observations of this specific island universe provide a crucial window into the bizarre physics of void-dwelling structures. When astronomers point their instruments at this lonely target, they are struck by its almost artificial perfection. Unbothered by the gravitational winds and tidal disruptions of the greater cosmos, it rotates with a flawless, hypnotic symmetry. It is a living laboratory, showcasing what a galaxy looks like when it's allowed to grow in a completely sterile, undisturbed cosmic petri dish. The light from this solitary beacon travels for hundreds of millions of years through pristine, dust-free vacuum before finally touching our telescope mirrors. It carries the signature of a quiet, unbothered history, broadcasting a message of profound serenity across the abyss. It stands as a majestic, glowing monument to the power of cosmic solitude. Surprisingly, the internal mechanics of these isolated systems reveal that their star formation rates are unusually steady and calm compared to their clustered counterparts. In densely populated regions of space, starbirth is often a chaotic, erratic process triggered by violent collisions and intense bursts of radiation. Here, however, the creation of new suns proceeds at a measured, almost meditative pace. The available gas within these void galaxies is not violently compressed, but rather cools and condenses with a gentle, predictable rhythm. This results in a continuous, reliable production of stars, avoiding the explosive starburst phases that quickly exhaust a galaxy's resources. They are the slow-burning embers of the universe, consuming their limited fuel with extraordinary efficiency and grace. Feel the rhythmic, steady beat of your own pulse, a perfect metronome for this calm, continuous process of stellar creation. The quiet, unhurried birth of these stars ensures that the host galaxy will glow softly and consistently for eons to come. It is a marathon of gentle luminescence, a stark contrast to the brief, violent sprints of heavily clustered star systems. Unaffected by the brutal gravitational tearing found in dense superclusters, these galaxies almost universally maintain pristine, undisturbed spiral shapes. In the crowded neighbourhoods of the cosmos, spiral arms are frequently warped, stretched, or completely ripped away by the relentless tug of passing giants. The void offers a sanctuary where delicate, pinwheel architectures can flourish without fear of mutilation. The spiral arms of these lonely oases wind tightly and symmetrically around their glowing cores, tracing mathematical perfection in the dark. There are no tidal tails of scattered stars, no warped disks, and no asymmetrical bulges to suggest a traumatic past. They are the untouched masterpieces of galactic mechanics, spinning flawlessly in the dark. To observe these perfect spirals is to witness the fundamental laws of angular momentum operating without any external variables. They rotate with the smooth, hypnotic precision of a finely tuned watch suspended in zero gravity. Their unbroken symmetry is a direct, beautiful consequence of their supreme isolation. If life were to ever evolve on a planet within one of these void galaxies, the inhabitants would look up at a radically different, virtually starless night sky. While they would see the familiar dense band of their own local galaxy stretching across the heavens, the space immediately beyond that milky trail would be a terrifying, absolute black. There would be no faint smudges of neighbouring clusters, no distant companion galaxies to fuel early myths or navigational charts. To these hypothetical stargazers, their home galaxy would truly appear to be the entirety of creation, an isolated island floating in an infinite empty sea. The realization that other galaxies exist, let alone a sprawling interconnected cosmic web, would require technological leaps far beyond simple optical telescopes. Their cosmological worldview would be deeply defined by an overwhelming sense of cosmic loneliness. That haunting sense of cosmic loneliness is perhaps most profound when we consider that this monolithic absence was not always a singular entity. Cosmologists theorize that this supervoid was not birthed as a single, massive gap in the fabric of the universe, but rather as a fragmented collection of much smaller holes. In the early eons following the cooling of the cosmos, the distribution of matter was slightly more uniform. though already beginning to pull into the seeds of what would become the cosmic web. These protovoids were mere shadows of the giant we see today, scattered like small, dark droplets in a luminous sea. They represent the first breath of emptiness in a universe that was still finding its structural footing. This realization changes the void from a static scar into a dynamic, evolving masterpiece of negative space that has been carefully assembled over the ages. By understanding its origins as a collection of smaller parts, we can better appreciate the immense power of time. The void we witness now is a testament to the cumulative effect of billions of years of gradual change. It is an assembly of quietness, built piece by piece across the vast timeline of the stars, proving that even nothingness has a history. Surprisingly, the universe began with a series of much smaller, disconnected pockets of nothingness that slowly drifted together over immense spans of cosmic time. These minor voids were pushed and prodded by the growing gravitational influence of the massive galactic structures forming around them. Like bubbles rising in a thick, cooling fluid, they moved with a patient, unhurried grace toward one another through the expanding dark. As these pockets navigated the currents of space-time, they were inevitably drawn into proximity by the thinning of the matter that stood between them. This drift was not a violent collision, but a soft, inexorable migration through the vacuum of the deep. It suggests a universe that is constantly seeking a more stable, lower energy state by consolidating its empty spaces into larger, more serene domains. The assembly of the Boötes Void was therefore an act of gravitational curation, a slow-motion gathering of scattered silences into a single unified sanctuary. This historical movement provides a sense of direction and purpose to the seemingly random distribution of the deep vacuum. It is a journey toward wholeness, where separate absences find their place in a grander collective peace. As these nascent voids drew near to one another, the thin membranes of matter and gas separating them began to slowly dissipate and dissolve. Gravity, the great sculptor of the cosmos, acted as a relentless drain, pulling every available atom away from these fragile boundaries and toward the massive surrounding walls. This process effectively erased the borders between the smaller pockets, allowing their interiors to spill into one another without resistance. Imagine the invisible tension holding these spaces apart, slowly yielding to the overwhelming pull of the distant superclusters. The matter that once defined the edges of the smaller voids was not destroyed, but simply relocated to the growing metropolis of the galactic filaments. This redistribution left behind a vast, unified territory where there was once a fractured landscape of small clearings. This dissipation of borders is a central theme in the narrative of cosmic growth, representing the transition from a messy, youthful universe into a more organized structure. The resulting supervoid is the clean, polished remains of a process that meticulously scrubbed away any lingering clutter between the dark bubbles. It is a landscape smoothed by the passage of time, leaving only the purest silence behind. Take a moment to feel the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall of your own chest, letting each inhalation expand your lungs with the same quiet ease as a growing bubble. As you exhale, allow any tension to merge with the surrounding air, finding comfort in the soft transition from the individual to the whole. This organic metaphor helps us visualize a process that takes place on a scale far beyond our physical reach. In the cosmic foam, the merging of these voids is the ultimate expression of this physical principle on a scale of millions of light years. The soap of this metaphor is the dark matter and gas that once formed the inner walls, now absorbed into the grander architecture. What remains is a sphere of such absolute perfection that it seems to have been intentional from the very start of time. Mathematical models and supercomputer simulations suggest that the sheer scale of this evacuation required billions of years of patient cosmic evolution to fully clear. To create a space of this magnitude, the universe had to work with a level of persistence that dwarfs all of human history and the lifespans of entire star systems. It was not a sudden event, but a meticulous atom-by-atom clearing of the field. Notice the weight of your body against your seat, a a small solid anchor in the slow flow of deep time that defines the cosmos. These models reveal that the void has been under construction since shortly after the cosmic microwave background was first emitted. It has been a constant, steady project, proceeding through the rise and fall of countless generations of stars in the distant walls. The time required to reach this current state of emptiness is a source of profound comfort, telling us that the universe moves with a deliberate slow-motion certainty. The Boötes Void is a physical manifestation of the sheer endurance of the natural laws that govern all of existence. It is a monument to the power of doing almost nothing, very slowly, for a very long time. If we were to look closer at this transformation, it would appear much like small, isolated clearings in a dense primeval forest, slowly growing until they become one massive, unbroken plain. In the beginning, the galaxies and gas clouds were the trees, standing thick and close together throughout the cosmic landscape. Over time, the clearings began to expand as the trees were pushed outward by the unseen pressures of expansion and gravity. The growth of these clearings was slow and cumulative, each new acre of empty space adding to the total momentum of the evacuation. Eventually, the paths between these open spaces began to widen and connect, forming a network of clearings that dominated the forest. The final result is a vast open territory where the forest has been pushed back to the furthest horizons of the mind. This analogy helps us appreciate the transition from a universe once defined by its matter to one now defined by its space. We are currently living in a time where the planes of the voids are reaching their most majestic and unified forms. The forest of the stars remains beautiful, but it is the open sky above the plane that truly reveals the scale of the world. The few lonely galaxies found within the interior are theorized to be the ancient leftover debris from the very walls that once divided those original smaller voids. When the boundaries between the smaller pockets dissipated, most of the matter was successfully drawn away into the massive exterior superclusters. However, a tiny fraction of gas and stars was left behind, stranded in the centre, as the walls moved further and further away. These remnants are like the small piles of dust left in the middle of a room after it has been swept clean from the edges toward the corners. They were caught in gravitational dead zones where the outward pull from all directions was momentarily balanced, leaving them suspended in the dark. They are the artifacts of a discarded border, the orphans of a cosmic reorganization that favoured the empty centre. By studying these specific galaxies, we're essentially performing galactic archaeology on the most remote sites in the universe. They contain the chemical and structural clues of the environments that existed before the supervoid reached its current, monolithic state. They are the living memory of a time when the void was still a collection of smaller, more intimate spaces. Deep within the heart of this immense emptiness, these structural remnants are not scattered randomly, but instead sit inside a curious tube-like arrangement running completely through the centre. This linear structure acts as a faint, ghostly spine, stretching across the void like a bridge made of scattered diamonds in the night. It is one of the most mysterious features of the Boötes region, suggesting an underlying order hidden within the vacuum. This tube is likely the last surviving fragment of the most significant wall that once bisected the merging voids. As the rest of the matter was cleared away, this central line remained, held in place by a complex tug-of-war between the surrounding filaments. It stands as a silent structural testimony to the original geometry of the smaller ancestral voids that joined to form this giant. The presence of this spine provides a sense of orientation in a place that otherwise lacks a north or south, up or down. It is a path of light through the dark, a gentle reminder that even in the deepest nothingness, there are still threads of connection. This internal bridge is a masterpiece of accidental cosmic architecture, formed by the very forces that tried to clear it away. Tracking the slow, drifting movement of these leftover galactic sentinels provides astronomers with a precious map of the void's ancient history. By calculating the trajectories of these interior galaxies, scientists can essentially hit rewind on the cosmic clock to witness the assembly of the dark. They can see where the original walls were located and how the smaller voids danced together before they finally merged. Notice the subtle sensation of your breath slowing down, allowing your mind to travel back through these billions of years of history. Just as you can trace the path of a storm by looking at the debris it leaves in its wake, we can trace the evolution of the universe by looking at these stranded stars. They are the markers of a long since concluded migration, the fossils of a movement that shaped the very sky. This mapping process reveals that the void is not just a place, but a story with a beginning, a middle, and a continuing end. It shows us that the current state of silence was earned through eons of movement and change across the deep. Each galaxy in the tube is a coordinate in a vast historical chart of the universe's ongoing journey toward expansion. Ultimately, the slow and patient clearing of this immense space represents one of the longest and most persistent continuous processes in the natural world. From the moment the first density fluctuations began to separate matter from vacuum, the void has been under constant refinement. It is a project of such immense duration that entire species, planets, and even star types have come and gone while it quietly proceeded. This persistence is a defining characteristic of the cosmic void, setting it apart from the relatively rapid and violent events like supernovae. It is a slow-motion masterpiece, a work of art that requires the entire age of the universe to reach its current level of maturity. To contemplate the void is to contemplate the very definition of patience on a scale that humbles the soul. This realization brings a sense of profound peace, anchoring us in a reality that values the long term over the immediate and the quiet over the loud. The void is still growing, still clearing, and still refining its perfect silent interior as we speak. It is a reminder that the most significant transformations in nature are often those that happen so slowly they are almost impossible to perceive. The perception of these slow transformations is matched by the literal speed of light as it glides through this region, with a purity found nowhere else in the cosmos. Photons of light travelling through this immense territory encounter almost zero resistance or interference, finding a path that is remarkably free from the microscopic clatter of atomic matter. In the bustling neighbourhoods of the cosmic web, light is constantly buffeted by gas clouds and stellar winds, but here it moves in a state of absolute grace. The vacuum is so refined that a single particle of light can coast for millions of years without once being diverted from its original trajectory. This lack of interference ensures that every photon remains an untarnished messenger from its distant point of origin, carrying its data across the dark. It is as if the universe has provided a sacred corridor for the fundamental velocity of nature to express itself in its most naked and unhindered form. To understand this purity, imagine a single beam of sunlight cutting perfectly straight through a completely dark, dust-free room where no floating motes exist to catch the light and reveal its presence. The light exists in a state of absolute flow, a ghostly river of energy that moves through the dark without leaving a single ripple in its wake. This absence of friction allows the light to maintain its integrity across distances that would otherwise exhaust its signal, preserving the ancient history of the stars. It is a realm where light can finally breathe, unburdened by the heavy and chaotic clutter of a crowded universe. This lack of particulate matter means that the optical fidelity of the region is unparalleled, serving as a pristine, high-definition corridor for the most ancient light in existence. A beam of starlight can travel for hundreds of millions of light-years across this specific dark patch without losing a single fraction of its original hue to the obscuring shadows of cosmic dust. It is a visual experience of absolute clarity, where the subtle nuances of galactic colour are saved from the usual erosion of the deep vacuum. Astronomers peering into this space are gifted with a view that is not merely far away, but exceptionally honest, showing us the stars as they truly were at the moment of their ignition. If we were to look closer at the sheer scale of the transit, we would realise that a single ray of light entering one side of the void will travel for 330 million years, before it finally touches anything on the other side. This duration is almost impossible to grasp, spanning a period of time that covers nearly the entire history of complex life on our own planet. A beam of light that entered the darkness when the first primitive forests were beginning to carpet the Earth would only just be emerging into the light of the far wall today. It is a journey that began before the rise and fall of the dinosaurs, continuing silently through the eons while our entire world changed beyond recognition. This lack of massive objects within the interior means that gravitational lensing, the spectacular warping of space caused by gravity, is practically non-existent within its borders. In the typical landscape of the cosmic web, the immense weight of galaxy clusters acts like a thick and uneven lens, bending and distorting the images of the objects sitting far behind them into strange glowing arcs and multiple reflections. These Einstein rings and arcs are the universe's way of magnifying the distant deep, but they often obscure the true shape of the things they reveal. Within the Boötes region, however, the fabric of space-time is remarkably flat and undisturbed, offering a view that is as honest as a mirror. To a traveller crossing this space in a hypothetical vessel, the view through the observation deck would remain hauntingly static for millions of human lifetimes. Because the distances are so incredibly vast and the local landmarks are essentially non-existent, there would be no perceptible change in the size or position of the surrounding galactic walls for thousands of years. It is a journey where the concept of movement loses its physical meaning, as the distant stars remain frozen in their unchanging patterns. Even if the ship were moving at the absolute speed limit, the horizon would never seem to draw closer, leaving the traveller in a state of perpetual arrival. This lack of visible progress is a psychological weight that underscores the sheer scale of a territory that refuses to be quickly conquered by the movement of mass. Millions of generations could be born, live, and pass away on such a journey without the view from the window ever shifting by even a single degree. The constellations of the surrounding superclusters would be the only companions, and they would remain as permanent and unwavering as the dark itself. It is a voyage through a landscape that is simply too large to change, a testament to the absolute patience required to navigate the grand architecture of the cosmos. Imagine the ship drifting with its internal lights dimmed, the only sound being the soft, rhythmic hum of the life support systems as you glide through the unmoving stars. This sensory anchor helps us feel the scale of the stillness, where the typical markers of travel, the passing of landmarks, the shift in perspectives, are completely erased. You're not moving through a place so much as you're becoming a part of the stillness itself. The voyage is not measured in miles or kilometres, but in the slow and steady passing of eons against a background that never changes. The blanket of the void is thick and absolute, muffling the chaotic and energetic signals of the rest of the universe, and providing a sanctuary of total visual silence. It is a place where the mind can finally expand to fill the available space, unhindered by the boundaries and distractions of the visible world. Within this shadow, the typical hierarchies of bright and dark are reversed, and the emptiness becomes the most tangible and supportive thing in existence. It is a cocoon of space-time, protecting the interior from the turbulent winds of the stellar neighbourhoods, and allowing for a level of undisturbed reflection that is simply impossible elsewhere. Take a slow, deep breath in, feeling the cool and steady air filling your lungs, much like the pure and unbothered vacuum of the deep. As you exhale, imagine the weight of this dark blanket settling over you, providing a sense of security and absolute privacy. You're far away from the demands of the light, tucked into a fold of the universe where time and noise have no power to reach you. This is the ultimate comfort of the Boötes region, the realization that true darkness is not something to be feared, but a soft and eternal rest that has been prepared across the ages. Deep in the very core of this expanse, the ancient cosmic microwave background radiation passes through only to be slightly chilled by the unique expansion of the internal space. This radiation is the oldest light in existence, the fading afterglow of the Big Bang itself, carrying the first heat of the universe's creation. As these ancient photons stretch across the supervoid, they lose a tiny fraction of their energy more rapidly than they would in a denser and more crowded environment. This subtle cooling is a direct result of the void's active growth, a gentle stretching of the fabric of space-time that saps the residual warmth from the dawn of time. The photons are stretched by the expanding vacuum, their wavelengths lengthening as they struggle to cross the growing gap between the distant galactic walls. By the time they emerge on the other side of the void, they carry a slightly colder and more tired signature, a physical mark of their long and lonely transit through the silent deep. This interaction acts like a cooling breeze passing through an open window on a summer evening, lowering the temperature of the oldest signals we can detect. It is a delicate and beautiful relationship between the first moments of the universe's life and its largest current structures. The cooling of this ancient light provides us with a thermal map of the void's history and its ongoing state of expansion. Even the most powerful and primordial radiation in existence must pay a small toll of energy to cross the majestic threshold of the great emptiness. This process ensures that the void remains one of the coldest and most tranquil places in the cosmos, a reservoir of low energy where the fires of the early universe have finally been allowed to fade into a peaceful and permanent chill. It is a state of supreme thermal grace. This cooling effect creates a subtle temperature dip known to astronomers as the integrated Sachs-Wolf effect, a thermal shadow cast by the very nothingness of the region. Because the gravitational potential of the void changes slightly as the light passes through it, the photons emerge on the far side with a slightly different energy level than when they first entered. It is a ghostly thermal fingerprint, a way for the void to announce its presence through the invisible spectrum of heat. This phenomenon provides a direct and compelling piece of evidence for the existence of dark energy, the mysterious force that drives the expansion of the universe from within the vacuum. Detecting this temperature dip requires incredibly sensitive instruments, capable of measuring fluctuations of mere millionths of a degree against the background of space. This subtle shadow is a testament to the way that even empty space can leave a lasting impression on the light that dares to cross it. The temperature of the ancient light is literally altered by the changing shape and depth of the space it occupies during its long and silent journey. It is a reminder that the void is not a static whole, but a dynamic and active participant in the evolution of the cosmic landscape, pulling and stretching at the very light of the stars. Feel the cool and even temperature of the air around you, much like the subtle thermal dip that defines this immense cosmic anomaly. This tiny variation in heat is the only hint of the massive and invisible forces at work within the darkness of the Boötes region. You are part of a universe where the most significant influences are often the ones that are the most difficult to perceive. Allow yourself to settle into this quiet and thermal stillness, finding comfort in the knowledge that even the coldest shadows of the universe carry the weight of a profound and hidden meaning. It is one of the few places in the entire universe where one can truly observe what can be described as uninterrupted cosmic silence. Away from the magnetic screams of pulsars, the radio chatter of bustling star systems, and the turbulent gas of the galactic plane, the electromagnetic background falls to a near-perfect hush. This is the ultimate retreat, a place where the noise of the universe's creation and the frantic energy of stellar life have finally been muffled by the sheer scale of the nothingness. Within this hush, the fundamental background radiation of the cosmos becomes the only detectable signal, a steady and unchanging hum from the beginning of time. There are no solar flares to crackle through the dark and no planetary atmospheres to scatter the radio waves of the deep, leaving the listener with a signal that is perfectly pure and undisturbed. It is a state of absolute electromagnetic peace, where the universe finally stops its constant talking and simply exists in a state of meditative and eternal quiet. This silence is not a void of information, but a state of supreme clarity, where the most fundamental frequencies of reality can be heard without the interference of the modern world. It is the sound of the vacuum, a deep and resonant stillness that has been preserved for billions of years, Feel the weight of your eyelids, as heavy and peaceful as the silence of the deep vacuum that surrounds this isolated territory. In this place, the static of existence is smoothed away, leaving only the pure and cold frequency of the universe at rest. You're listening to the heartbeat of the cosmos in its most tranquil and unhurried state. Allow the silence to wash over you, providing a resting place for your thoughts and a sanctuary for your mind. This is the true gift of the void, a silence so profound that it becomes a physical sensation of comfort and release. Ultimately, the void acts as a flawless and transparent window into the deeper and older universe that lies hidden behind it. By providing a clear and unobstructed path for the most distant light to travel, it allows us to see ancient structures and early galactic formations that would otherwise be obscured by the clutter of foreground stars. It is a telescope made of pure space, a lens of nothingness that reveals the majestic and complex everything that came before the local neighbourhood was even born. Looking through the Boötes Void is like looking through a clear pane of glass in a wall that's otherwise covered in thick ivy and heavy stone. This window grants us a view of the cosmic horizon that is uniquely free from the interference of dust, gas, and the light of our own solar neighbourhood. We're able to peer across billions of light years and billions of years of history with a clarity that is simply impossible in any other direction in the sky. The void does not seek to capture our attention with its own brilliance, but rather to facilitate our understanding of the profound and ancient light that lies far beyond its borders. It is the ultimate humble servant of the cosmos, a vast and silent guide that stands aside so that we may witness the wonders of the deep past. As our journey through the light of the void comes to a close, find peace in the realization that even the most empty places serve a vital and beautiful purpose. The window of the void reminds us that sometimes the most valuable thing a structure can provide is the space to see through it. Rest in this clarity, knowing that the darkness is not a barrier, but a bridge to the furthest reaches of the light. The journey through the Boötes region is a testament to the power of transparency and the enduring beauty of a universe that reveals its secrets in the quietest of ways. The quietest of ways often lead to the most invisible of truths, where the presence of the unseen defines the character of the deep. Even in its most empty and desolate regions, the expanse contains a faint ethereal trace of intergalactic gas that drifts through the darkness. It is a presence so subtle that it mimics the feeling of a light, invisible breeze sweeping past on a quiet winter night, felt only as a ghost against the skin. This gas does not gather into clouds or ignite into stars, but remains suspended in a state of perpetual thin diffusion. It is the signature of a universe that refuses to be truly empty, holding on to the barest minimum of matter even in its most isolated pockets. This gas represents the final, diluted remnants of the material that once filled the entire volume of the cosmos before the great expansion drew the galaxies away. It exists as a transparent mist, so sparse that a traveller could drift through it for 1,000,000 years without ever perceiving its touch. This invisible atmosphere provides the most tenuous of foundations for the vacuum, a ghostly medium for the passage of time. Observing this gas requires detecting the faintest of chemical signatures, a task that reveals the hidden textures of the void's interior. It is the breath of the cosmos in its most relaxed and unhurried state, far removed from the violent turbulence of the galactic clusters. Within this gentle, invisible fog, the expanse finds its ultimate, understated identity as a reservoir of primordial quiet. This gas is unimaginably thin, possessing a density so low that it challenges the very definition of a physical substance. Imagine a single cubic meter of space, a volume that could comfortably hold a large trunk, and realize that it likely contains only a single atom. To find another neighbour, that lone particle would have to look across a distance that, on a human scale, would feel like a vast uninhabited desert. This extreme dilution ensures that collisions between atoms are exceedingly rare events, occurring perhaps once in an age. In the dense environments of a planet or a star, matter is constantly bumping, grinding, and interacting in a chaotic dance of energy. Here, the dance has stopped, replaced by a state of absolute individual isolation, where each atom is its own solitary world. The space between these particles is so profound that the gas behaves more like a collection of independent ghosts than a cohesive fluid. It is the ultimate expression of the universe's spaciousness, a realm where matter has been stretched to its final, most delicate limit. Each lone atom is a survivor of the Great Clearing, a minute anchor in an ocean of vacuum that otherwise offers nothing to hold on to. This sparse distribution is the reason the light travels so purely, as there are simply too few obstacles to divert its path. If we were to look closer at the dark spaces between the rare galaxies, we would find that dark matter is also sparsely distributed here, forming invisible bridges across the abyss. These hidden structures act as a ghostly scaffolding, providing a weak but essential gravitational connection between the isolated islands of light. While the dark matter in the surrounding walls is thick and powerful, the filaments within the interior are stretched into long, delicate threads. They are the unseen architecture of the deep, the silent lattice upon which the rare visible matter is hung. Take a moment to let your shoulders sink into the support of your resting place, feeling the invisible gravity that anchors you to the world. Just as you are held in place by forces you cannot see, the lonely galaxies of the expanse are tethered to one another by these dark ethereal ribbons. Floating through this dark architecture are trillions of ghostly neutrinos that pass right through this space constantly, outnumbering protons by billions to one. These subatomic travelers move at nearly the speed of light, entirely unbothered by the walls of the void or the rare atoms that drift within it. They are the most abundant matter in the region, yet they interact so weakly with the rest of reality that they remain virtually undetectable to anything but the most specialized instruments. A neutrino entering the void will glide from one side to the other without once slowing down or changing its course, a perfect phantom in a silent theatre. Notice the sensation of the air moving softly around you, as invisible and pervasive as the stream of particles currently flooding the cosmos. These neutrinos are the survivors of the ancient fires, carrying the initial momentum of the universe's birth across the expanding dark. They form a continuous invisible rain that saturates the vacuum, outnumbering every star and planet in existence. Within the emptiness of the expanse, they are the dominant population, a ghostly majority that keeps the space from being truly, fundamentally alone. They are the silent witnesses to the void's history, moving through its depths with an indifference that is as beautiful as it is chilling. This constant, invisible flow is the heartbeat of the deep, a rhythmic movement of energy that persists even where the light has faded. Surprisingly, the quantum vacuum is never truly empty, as virtual particles pop in and out of existence in a frantic subatomic dance that occurs everywhere, including the depths of the void. These pairs of particles and antiparticles emerge from the vacuum for a fraction of a second, only to annihilate one another and return their energy to the space they occupied. It is a flickering, ephemeral reality that hums beneath the surface of the silence, a constant crackle of creation and destruction at the smallest possible scales. Even in the heart of the most desolate region, the fabric of space-time is alive with this tireless activity. If we could zoom in far enough, we would see that the empty space is actually a boiling sea of potentiality, never resting for even a single moment. This quantum foam is the foundation of the entire universe, providing the background energy that allows for the existence of everything else. Notice how the absolute zero of space is kept slightly at bay by the ancient cosmic microwave background, which provides a faint, uniform warmth to the entire region. Absolute zero is the point where all atomic motion stops, a state of perfect and terrifying stillness that the universe seems to avoid at all costs. The residual glow from the dawn of everything acts like a thin cosmic radiator, maintaining a floor of energy that prevents the vacuum from falling into that final, frozen state. It is a thermal safety net, woven from the oldest light in existence, that blankets every cubic metre of the deep. This ancient warmth is the reason the atoms in the void still possess a tiny rhythmic vibration, a lingering memory of the fires that once filled the sky. Without this background glow, the expanse would be a place of absolute death, a realm where the laws of physics themselves might begin to unravel. The subtle heat ensures that the vacuum remains a place of potential, a medium that can still interact with the rest of the cosmos. It is the universe's ultimate act of preservation, keeping the dark from becoming a total and irreversible frost. This background heat is the constant, quiet pulse of the cosmos, a reminder that the fire of creation still burns, however faintly, in the most remote corners of the night. Imagine the precision of this thermal floor, as the temperature of the void rests at a frigid 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. This temperature is remarkably uniform throughout the entire expanse, showing no significant variation regardless of which direction you look. It is a level of thermal stability that would be impossible to achieve in a cluttered, star-filled environment where local suns create chaotic hotspots of energy. Here, the temperature is a pure reflection of the universe's overall expansion, a chilled remnant of the initial heat that has been stretched across the void for billions of years. As you rest, imagine this faint, invisible warmth pressing gently against you from all directions, providing a sense of fundamental security. You're never truly in the cold, because the universe itself refuses to let the temperature drop below a certain ancient threshold. At this temperature, the rare atoms of hydrogen move with a slow, heavy grace, their kinetic energy reduced to the barest minimum required for existence. It is a state of deep, cryogenic sleep, where time seems to slow down along with the movement of matter. The cold is not sharp or biting, but a soft and pervasive stillness that settles into the very bones of the vacuum. It is the baseline of the universe, the quiet temperature of a reality that has finally found its equilibrium. Magnetic fields within the supervoid are extremely weak, stretched to their absolute breaking point by the ongoing expansion of the internal volume. In the heart of a galaxy, magnetic lines of force are tangled and intense, driving the movement of gas and the formation of massive stars. In the empty spaces of the expanse, these lines have been pulled into long straight threads that barely exert any influence on the stray particles they encounter. It is a magnetic desert, where the compass of the cosmos has been rendered almost entirely silent by the sheer lack of material to hold the field together. These weak fields represent the final, diluted remains of the magnetism that was once concentrated in the early, dense regions of the cosmic web. As the void expanded, the field lines were drawn out like molten glass, thinning until they became almost entirely transparent. They persist as a faint, invisible texture in the vacuum, a ghostly reminder of the energetic past that has since been left behind. Allow your breathing to slow, feeling the subtle, invisible forces of your own environment, the air, the light, the gravity, operating with the same quiet grace as these distant magnetic threads. You're in a state of balance, much like the vacuum, where the forces that shape you have found a peaceful and steady rhythm. The weak fields of the void are the ultimate expression of this balance, providing a space where even the strongest forces of nature are reduced to a gentle, harmless whisper. Without stars to forge heavy elements through the process of nuclear fusion, the gas here remains composed mostly of primordial hydrogen and helium. In the rest of the universe, generations of exploding stars have salted the vacuum with carbon, oxygen, and iron. The stardust that eventually forms planets and life. Within the sanctuary of the void, however, the recipe of the universe has remained unchanged since the first moments following the cooling of the dawn. It is a pristine and simple medium, consisting only of the most basic elements that emerge from the initial expansion. This lack of chemical complexity is a hallmark of the region's isolation. proving that it has been cut off from the cycle of stellar birth and death for billions of years. The hydrogen and helium found here are the oldest and purest atoms in existence, never having been processed through the fiery hearts of a star. They are the raw materials of creation in their most unadulterated form, waiting in a state of permanent and silent potential. This chemical purity ensures that the environment remains remarkably clear and transparent to the passage of light. Within this sparse and ancient mist, the expanse maintains its identity as a time capsule of the cosmic beginning, preserved far from the transformative fires of the galactic walls. This pristine material has been practically untouched since the first moments of the dawn of all things, making the void one of the most significant historical preserves in the entire cosmos. While the rest of the universe has been recycled and reshaped 1,000 times over, the interior of the expanse offers a glimpse of the reality that existed before the first stars were ever lit. It is a landscape that has ignored the passage of eons, holding on to its initial state with an endurance that is truly staggering. The atoms drifting here today are the same ones that were first cooled by the initial expansion, survivors of a timeline that stretches back to the very root of existence. This preservation is the ultimate consequence of the void's emptiness, as there has been nothing to disturb the peace and no energy to drive a change. It is a realm of eternal stagnation that is also a realm of eternal beauty, a place where the past is not a memory but a living physical presence. To enter the void is to step out of the frantic current of history and into a pool of time that has been perfectly still for billions of years. It is the final and most profound sanctuary of the universe, where the beginning and the end are indistinguishable in the dark. Find peace in the realization that the universe is at its most honest when it is at its most empty, knowing that the most important parts of the universe are often those that are the most difficult to see. The realization that the most important parts of the universe are often those most difficult to see is a perspective born of our lucky placement among the stars. If Earth were located in the center of this void, the night sky would be radically different, stripped of the grand celestial tapestry we take for granted. We would look up into a dome that feels fundamentally smaller, as if the universe ended at the very edge of our own galactic neighborhood. Imagine standing alone on a high mountain peak, wrapped in a starless, velvety night, where the only light comes from the ground beneath your feet. This profound change would mean that the thousands of distant galaxies we now observe as faint smudges would simply not exist for the naked eye. Our ancestral myths and early scientific theories would have been built upon a foundation of absolute cosmic solitude, never suspecting the crowded reality that lies beyond. The absence of these distant neighbours would create a sense of peace that is both beautiful and terrifying in its scope. Without the distraction of the deeper universe, our focus would be drawn entirely to the intricacies of our own local system. We would be residents of a celestial island, unaware that a vast and vibrant continent exists just over the dark horizon. Beyond the familiar glow of our own stellar backyard, we would see only the stars of our own Milky Way, with total blackness sitting immediately beyond them. There would be no Andromeda, no Triangulum, and no Magellanic clouds to break the perfect dark uniformity of the deep vacuum. The horizon of our vision would be limited to the internal lights of our own spiral home, creating a sense of total and absolute isolation that we can barely imagine today. Notice the sensation of your own breath becoming slow and rhythmic, matching the steady, unchanging nature of such a desolate sky. This environment would foster a worldview where the edges of our galaxy were the literal edges of reality itself. To look past the final star of the Milky Way would be to stare into a true and infinite abyss, a place where light and matter seemingly go to die. The visual weight of that darkness would be a constant presence in the lives of every living soul on such a world. It would be a velvet curtain drawn shut around the cradle of our civilization, protecting us from the noise of the cosmos while simultaneously cutting us off from its grandeur. This restricted view would make our own sun and its neighbouring stars feel like the only meaningful lights in an otherwise dead and empty void. In this isolated scenario, astronomers would not have known about the existence of other galaxies until the invention of powerful telescopes in the 1960s. For most of human history, the idea that our galaxy was the sole inhabitant of the void would have been the undisputed scientific truth, backed by every observation possible. The discovery of a universe beyond our own would have required a technological leap that feels almost magical, a sudden and violent piercing of an ancient and heavy veil. Surprisingly, the first detection of another star system would have likely been met with disbelief and skepticism by a world used to its lonely status. It would have felt as if we had spent thousands of years in a dark room only to realise that there was a window we had never noticed. This moment of discovery would be the single most transformative event in the history of such a people, expanding their universe by a factor of billions in a single night. The delayed realisation of the cosmic web would mean that our early pioneers and philosophers lived in a state of blissful ignorance regarding the scale of the deep. They would have mastered the physics of their own stars without ever realising that those stars were part of a much larger and more complex dance. The eventual reveal would be a masterpiece of scientific timing, arriving only when our intellect was finally ready to handle the weight of infinity. The concept of a vast populated universe would have been a controversial and late discovery for humanity, potentially arriving long after our understanding of biology or chemistry had matured. Imagine the shock of a society that believed itself to be the only collection of matter in existence suddenly finding out that the blackness is actually filled with billions of other islands. This revelation would have fundamentally shattered every existing map of the cosmos, forcing a traumatic and beautiful rethinking of our place in the deep. As you settle deeper into your resting place, allow your mind to expand along with this sudden, hypothetical growth of the known world. This late-blooming cosmology would mean that our religions, our art, and our very sense of self would have been forged in the kiln of isolation. We would have built our entire identity on the belief that we were the unique and singular focus of the natural world, only to have that belief dismantled by a single photograph of a distant smudge. This shift from a singular to a plural universe would be the ultimate test of a civilization's mental flexibility and its capacity for wonder. It would be a grand synthesis of all human knowledge, a moment where the silence of the void was finally broken by the noisy reality of the cosmic web. The realization that the universe is actually a crowded and vibrant place would be the final, crowning achievement of our scientific journey. Deep within this hypothetical dark, you could spend a lifetime gazing into an abyss where even the brightest neighbouring superclusters are invisible to the naked eye. Even the most powerful and luminous structures of the cosmic web would be reduced to nothingness by the sheer distance of the void. It would be a night sky that truly captures the feeling of standing alone on a high mountain peak, wrapped in a starless, velvety night. If we were to look closer at the emotional impact of such a view, we might find a culture that values the warmth and light of the home above all else. In a universe that looks like a cold and empty well, the fire of a hearth or the glow of a city would be the only defences against the infinite night. The void would be the ultimate reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of huddling together against the encroaching dark. The Andromeda Galaxy, our closest major neighbour and a staple of our current night sky, would be far too distant to observe without the aid of highly advanced optics. To an ancient stargazer in the void, the space where Andromeda sits would appear as a featureless void of its own, a dead zone in the celestial sphere. This absence would remove the most visible proof that we are not alone, reinforcing the myth of a solitary and accidental creation. Without the majestic spiral of our neighbour hanging in the sky, we would lose a vital source of inspiration and a crucial benchmark for our own size. Our understanding of galactic structure would have to be pieced together from the inside out, a task much like trying to map a forest while standing at the base of a single tree. The beauty of the external universe would be a secret kept from us by the staggering proportions of the supervoid. This loss of perspective would make our own galaxy feel much larger than it actually is, a giant in a world of ghosts. We would have no points of comparison, No other examples of the universe's creative power to contrast with our own existence. The Andromeda we know would be a ghost story, a mathematical possibility that remained unproven for thousands of years of human observation. Our local group of galaxies would feel like a tiny, fragile island floating in an infinite ink-black ocean that extends in every direction for eons. The connection to the rest of the cosmic web would be so tenuous that it might as well not exist for any practical purpose of navigation or observation. This sensory anchor of the isolated island helps us feel the weight of the surrounding silence, a reminder that we are defined by the space that holds us. Let your limbs sink slightly heavier into the soft embrace of your surroundings, feeling the security of your own small island of comfort. In the void, this feeling of isolation would be the fundamental baseline of the human experience, a permanent state of being that colours every thought and every dream. We would be a marooned species, surviving on a handful of stars while the rest of the universe remains an unreachable and silent mystery. The vastness of the ink-black ocean would ensure that no signal from another civilization could ever hope to reach us across the abyss. We would be the masters of our small archipelago, but we would never know if we were the only ones living in the sea. This profound isolation would make the preservation of our own light a sacred and desperate duty, as there would be no one else to carry the torch. The cosmic background radiation would be our only hint that something existed before our isolated pocket of stars, or that there was a larger context to our existence. This faint, uniform glow would be the only signal coming from beyond the dark, a mysterious whisper from a realm that we could not see. It would be a scientific riddle of the highest order, the only evidence that the blackness is not an eternal and original state of the cosmos. This discovery would be like finding a message in a bottle on a beach we thought was the only land in the world. It would prove that the silence of the void was once preceded by a noisy and energetic beginning, a moment when the entire universe was a single, hot point. This radiation would be the only bridge between our quiet present and the fiery origins of the deep past. Without this signal, we would have no reason to believe that the universe was anything other than a cold and empty hole that had existed forever. The background glow would be our only compass, pointing toward a history that we could not otherwise imagine. It would be the ultimate mystery of the void, a faint light that refuses to be extinguished by the millions of years of darkness. Navigation by extragalactic markers like quasars would be entirely impossible for early stargazers, as these bright lighthouses would be buried beneath millions of light-years of empty space. Our early explorers and sailors would have had to rely solely on the fixed positions of our internal stars, never knowing that there were more stable and powerful points of reference in the deep. The universe would feel small, manageable, and strangely quiet, lacking the energetic signals that define the wider world. This limitation would have kept our early science focused inward, perfecting the maps of our own neighbourhood while ignoring the grander geography of the deep. We would be like a village that never travels beyond the surrounding hills, unaware that a whole world of cities and oceans lies just out of sight. The lack of these beacons would make the journey beyond our own stars feel like a jump into a bottomless well with no bottom and no walls. Consider how the stillness of your environment allows for a similar focus on the immediate, a quiet appreciation for the things that are close at hand. In the void, this focus would be the only way to survive the crushing weight of the unknown. The lack of quasars would be a mercy in a way, protecting us from the realization of how truly small and insignificant our own little light really is. The psychological impact of looking out into pure, unbroken darkness every night would profoundly shape an entire civilization's philosophy and its spiritual foundations. A culture born of the void would likely prioritize internal contemplation and the value of the immediate, given the total lack of external inspiration or distraction. The void would be their god, their limit, and their mystery, a dark mirror that forces them to look inward for the meaning of life rather than searching the stars. Philosophy on such a world would likely center on the concept of the darkness as a presence, a tangible and supportive quietude that holds all things. Instead of seeing the dark as an enemy to be conquered, they might see it as a parent, a vast and silent protector that keeps the noise of the universe at bay. This worldview would produce a people of immense patience and deep, quiet wisdom, undisturbed by the frantic pace of a more crowded cosmos. Their spiritual life would be a masterpiece of internal exploration, as they would have no choice but to find the light within themselves. The unbroken darkness would be the ultimate catalyst for human growth, a blank canvas upon which they could project their deepest hopes and fears. In the end, the void would not be a place of loneliness, but a place of absolute and perfect clarity, where the soul can finally see itself for what it truly is. This clarity of the soul finds its physical counterpart in the staggering thinness of the region, where the density of matter is roughly 1/3 of the average density found in the rest of the observable universe. While the broader cosmos is already a near-perfect vacuum by human standards, this specific super-void represents an extreme state of material dilution that pushes the limits of existence. It is a realm where the fundamental building blocks of reality are spread so thin that they barely exert any meaningful influence on one another across the dark. Within this sparse territory, the distance between individual atoms is so vast that the very concept of matter becomes almost ghostly, a mere whisper in a cathedral of night. This extreme rarefaction ensures that the void remains largely undisturbed by the gravitational chaos and tidal friction that define the denser filaments and clusters of the cosmic web. It is a landscape that has been meticulously cleared over billions of years, leaving behind only the most essential and isolated fragments of the primordial dawn. As you observe this thinning of reality, feel the lightness in your own limbs, as if the heavy weight of the world is slowly evaporating into a peaceful, weightless expanse. The low density of the void acts as a natural buffer, shielding its interior from the turbulent energy and radiation of the surrounding galaxy walls. It is the ultimate expression of cosmic minimalism, where less truly becomes more. Because it is so profoundly empty of the mass that typically anchors the universe, the void is technically a region of negative gravitational potential, a concept that turns our usual understanding of gravity upside down. In a universe where matter usually pulls things toward it like a magnet, this massive absence acts as a topographical peak in the fabric of space-time, a hill from which everything tends to roll away. It is not a hole that pulls you in, but a mountain of nothingness that gently pushes you toward the distant horizon. This unique physical property creates a sense of profound buoyancy, as if the very vacuum itself is trying to shed any remaining weight or complexity. Within this negative potential, the typical rules of attraction are suspended, replaced by a subtle and persistent outward pressure that defines the entire region's evolution. It is a grand, invisible inversion of the force that keeps our feet on the ground and our planets in their orbits around the sun. If we were to look closer at the mathematical topology of this space, we would see a landscape where the crowded galaxy clusters are the valleys, and these vast silent voids are the peaks. This geometric reality ensures that the emptiness remains self-preserving, actively discouraging the accumulation of new matter within its borders. It is a sanctuary of negative influence, a place defined entirely by what it lacks rather than what it holds. Surprisingly, the universe has designed a system where matter at the edges of this expanse is gently repelled by the void and attracted to the denser, more luminous surrounding walls. This creates a continuous process of cosmic migration, where any stray gas or lonely stars find themselves caught in a slow-motion tug-of-war they are destined to lose to the perimeter. The void acts as a giant invisible bellows, steadily blowing the dust of the cosmos away from its tranquil center and toward the busy metropolitan nodes of the web. This constant outward drift reinforces the boundaries between the silence and the noise, ensuring that the clearings grow ever sharper and more distinct over the eons. The galaxies on the perimeter are not merely sitting there, they are actively consuming the remnants of the interior, growing more massive as the void grows more pure and empty. It is a masterpiece of cosmic filtration, a natural mechanism that separates the dense from the dilute with absolute and unwavering precision. Take a slow, deep breath, imagining any lingering tension in your body being caught in this outward drift, moving away from your center until it vanishes into the distant dark. This repulsion is not violent, but a soft and inevitable redirection of energy that leaves the heart of the region in a state of perfect, unbothered peace. It is the physics of letting go, a cosmic scale version of the release that comes with true, restorative rest. This outward pull manifests as a subtle outflow of galaxies, a slow-motion departure of the few remaining star systems away from the void's geometric center. Unlike the frantic colliding motion of galaxies in a dense cluster, these isolated travelers move with a quiet, unidirectional grace, drifting toward the gravitational safety of the surrounding superstructures. It is a migration that occurs over billions of years, a patient exodus that further empties the already desolate interior of its few remaining lights. Tracking this movement reveals the long-term history of the region's clearing, showing us the path that matter has taken to reach the crowded walls we see today. Each galaxy in this outflow is a tiny messenger, carrying the chemical signature of the void's expansion into the more populated and chaotic sectors of the sky. They are the last remnants of a time when the void was smaller and more crowded, now making their final journey toward the edge of the abyss. The outflow ensures that the void's most central regions reach the highest possible levels of vacuum, as the final occupants are slowly but surely escorted to the distant exits. This process is one of the most serene movements in the universe, a silent departure that leaves behind a state of total and absolute quiet. It is the ultimate tidying of the cosmic house, a clearing of the floor that leaves only the vast open space of the mind. While the speed of light remains the absolute limit for any object moving through this space, the actual fabric of the void space itself expands even faster, pushing the borders outward into the deep. This creates a fascinating physical horizon where the distant walls of galaxies are receding from the center at speeds that exceed the ability of light to bridge the gap. It is a race between the expansion of the vacuum and the journey of the photon, with the void steadily claiming more territory from the observable world. Notice how this stretching of the background fabric provides an ever-growing sanctuary, a realm of darkness that grows faster than any star can illuminate it. This superluminal expansion means that over time more and more of the surrounding universe will disappear over the horizon of the void, leaving the interior even more profoundly isolated. It is a slow-motion disconnection from the rest of reality, a gradual closing of the cosmic shutters against the light of the clusters. Deep within this stretching space-time, the rules of relativity are not broken, but they are framed within a much larger and more dynamic geometry. The void is not just a place where nothing happens. It is an active engine of growth, pushing the boundaries of the universe further apart with every passing moment. It is a growth that is silent and invisible, yet it is the most powerful force shaping the macrostructure of everything we know. To truly grasp the nature of this region, one must picture space not as an empty room, but as a stretching fabric that thins out mostly in these vast, quiet pockets. Imagine a sheet of dark silk being pulled from all sides by unseen hands, where the places with the fewest threads begin to stretch and thin until they become almost transparent. In the cosmic web, the galaxy filaments are the thick, gathered bundles of the silk, while the voids are the wide, smooth expanses where the weave has been pulled to its absolute limit. This thinning of the fabric is the fundamental reason why the density of the region is so low and why the expansion is so efficient within its borders. The tension of the universe is expressed here in its most pure form, a literal stretching of the distance between points that has been continuing since the dawn of time. It is a landscape of tension and release, where the vacuum is the ultimate expression of a world pulled into its most spacious and comfortable configuration. As you settle into your resting place, feel the gentle stretch of your own breath, a rhythmic expansion that mirrors the slow and steady thinning of the cosmic fabric. You are part of this stretching reality, a temporary knot in a sheet of dark silk that is being pulled gently toward the infinite. This perspective reveals that the void is not a hole in the universe, but rather the part of the universe that has been allowed to reach its full spacious potential. If we were to look closer at the thermodynamic state of the region, we would find that entropy inside the void increases at a much slower rate than in the rest of the universe. Because there are so few interacting particles and so little energetic activity, the disorder of the cosmos accumulates with an agonizingly slow and patient rhythm. The void is effectively a pocket of the universe where time's arrow moves with less friction, preserving a state of low entropy for billions of years longer than the busy galactic clusters. This slow-motion decay means that the void will likely be the last part of the universe to reach the final state of heat death, holding on to its structured stillness until the very end of time. It is a place of incredible longevity, a reservoir of order that resists the chaotic march toward total dissipation. While stars in the walls burn out and black holes evaporate, the quiet vacuum of the interior remains practically unchanged, a permanent monument to the initial conditions of the cosmos. Feel the slowing of your own thoughts, a gentle reduction in the entropy of your mind as you drift into this state of profound and lasting quiet. You're entering a realm where the rush of the world has no power, and where the breakdown of things is delayed by the sheer lack of anything to break. It is the ultimate preservation of the self, found in a space that has learned how to wait out the end of the universe. Ultimately, this region serves as a flawless natural laboratory for studying how gravity behaves in the near-total absence of significant mass. By observing the movements of the rare interior galaxies and the behavior of light crossing the expanse, scientists can test the limits of general relativity in its most extreme and isolated environment. It is a place where the subtle background effects of the universe become the primary focus, revealing the fundamental nature of space-time itself without the distractions of the visible world. The void provides a unique opportunity to measure the constant of gravity and the influence of dark energy with a level of purity that is simply impossible on Earth or even within our own galaxy. It is a clean room on a cosmic scale, a site of supreme scientific clarity that has been prepared by the universe over billions of years. To study the physics of the void is to look at the very foundation of reality, stripped of the heavy ornamentation of matter and energy. This final insight brings a sense of profound closure, as we realize that the emptiness is not a mistake or a waste, but a vital and necessary part of the universe's self-discovery. The Boötes region is the ultimate teacher of the quiet truths, showing us that the most profound laws of nature are often those that operate in the silence. Rest in this understanding, knowing that the nothingness is actually the most sophisticated and beautiful laboratory ever created. The silence of this laboratory is guarded by a celestial sentinel known to the ancient Greeks as the herdsman, a figure who watches over the vast and quiet pastures of the deep. Within the boundaries of the Boötes constellation, the universe presents its most profound mystery, a title derived from a figure meant to guide and watch over the flocks of stars. This name provides a poetic resonance to the region, as the herdsman appears to be overseeing a vast empty pasture where no galactic sheep graze. It is as if the ancient myths somehow anticipated the guardianship of a space defined by what it protects, a pure and unblemished silence. Looking into this section of the sky, the eye naturally follows the sweep of the Great Bear's tail toward a region that seems remarkably still. The herdsman stands as a gatekeeper, his outstretched arms framing the entrance to an abyss that defies the typical clutter of the heavens. This mythological connection grounds our modern scientific observations in a long history of human wonder, reminding us that we have always sought names for the shadows between the lights. As you rest, imagine the intricately woven edge of an ancient glowing tapestry, where the golden threads of mythology begin to blend into the dark velvet of cosmic reality. The herdsman does not merely point the way, he provides a sense of scale and orientation in a territory where the typical maps of the stars fail. In this sanctuary of the sky, the ancient and the modern meet in a shared gaze toward the unknown. To find this window into the deep, we must first look past the brilliant amber glow of Arcturus and the delicate light of Izar, the primary lamps of the herdsman's staff. Arcturus, one of the brightest stars in the night sky, acts as a blazing foreground beacon that our gaze must traverse before it can plunge into the void's depths. This orange giant is so close and so luminous that it serves as a stark reminder of the dense stellar activity we're attempting to look beyond. Nearby, the star Izar offers a different kind of beauty, a binary system of gold and blue that flickers with the complexity of local space. These stars are the ornate decorations on the frame of our window, the last familiar landmarks before the view opens into the absolute vacuum. Peering past them feels like looking out from a warm, brightly lit room into the vast and cooling shadows of a garden at night. Allow your body to sink further into its resting place, feeling the same distance between your own quiet presence and the busy, flickering energy of the world outside. Just as we must look past these brilliant suns to see the void, we must often look past the immediate noise of life to find the deep stillness within. The void remains hidden behind these guardians, waiting for the patient observer to look deeper into the dark. One of the most massive and magnificent frames of this emptiness is the rich Coma galactic supercluster, a buzzing hive of cosmic activity containing billions upon billions of individual stars. This colossal structure acts as a luminous retaining wall, a dense metropolis of light that stands in sharp contrast to the silent interior it borders. The sheer density of the Coma supercluster is a staggering display of the universe's capacity for congregation, featuring thousands of galaxies huddled together in a gravitational embrace. Within this hive, the energy is frantic and the light is overwhelming, representing the ultimate expression of the cosmic web's metropolitan nodes. It is a territory of constant collision and creation, a noisy neighbour to a region that has chosen the path of absolute quiet. The proximity of such a crowded structure makes the emptiness of the void feel even more intentional and profound, highlighting the extreme diversity of the universe's architecture. Notice the weight of your limbs as you consider this contrast, finding a similar boundary between the buzzing activity of your thoughts and the heavy, peaceful stillness of your physical rest. The Coma supercluster provides the necessary light to define the darkness of the void, a glowing boundary that reminds us of the complexity we're momentarily leaving behind. It is a masterpiece of density, serving as the perfect foil to the masterwork of emptiness it neighbours. Journeying from the furthest horizons of time, we can detect ancient light from the early universe that has successfully crossed through this quiet space without distortion. These photons are the oldest travellers in existence, having survived the era of recombination to carry the first image of the cosmos toward our waiting senses. Because the void is so remarkably clear, these ancient messengers arrive with a fidelity that is simply impossible in more cluttered regions of the sky. If we were to look closer, we would realize that this light has spent hundreds of millions of years in the perfect sanctuary of the vacuum, unbothered by the dust of galaxies. It acts as a bridge between the dawn of everything and the present moment, a direct link to the fires that first lit the universe. The void serves as a protected corridor, a sacred path that allows the most delicate information of the deep past to reach us untarnished. The juxtaposition between the brilliant crowded walls and the dark, empty interior helps astronomers meticulously measure the distribution of dark matter across the cosmic web. By comparing the gravitational behaviour of the luminous galaxies on the perimeter with the near-perfect vacuum of the centre, scientists can calculate the hidden weight that holds the universe together. The void acts as a baseline, a controlled environment where the absence of visible matter allows the influence of the invisible to become clear. Surprisingly, it is the very nothingness of the region that provides the most accurate data for understanding the most pervasive substance in existence. Without this massive gap in the visible tapestry, the subtle effects of dark matter would be far more difficult to isolate from the noise of the stars. The void is the ultimate scientific tool, a hollow space that reveals the shape of the container holding the galaxies in place. Notice how the stillness of your own body allows you to become more aware of the subtle forces that support you, much like the way the void reveals the unseen scaffolding of the cosmos. In this state of rest, the invisible becomes tangible, and the quiet becomes a source of deep and lasting insight. The dark matter filaments are the hidden threads of the tapestry, and the void is the space that allows us to see the pattern of the weave. Imagine standing at the edge of an impossibly dense, luminous forest and looking out into the mouth of an endless dark canyon. This sensory anchor helps us visualize the transition from the crowded superclusters to the absolute isolation of the void's interior. Behind you, the trees are packed so tightly that their leaves overlap in a riot of color and light. But ahead, the land simply falls away into a depth that the eye cannot master. The edge of this forest is not a gradual thinning, but a sharp and definitive threshold between two entirely different states of being. Stepping out into the canyon feels like a release of pressure, a sudden expansion into a territory where the rules of the woods no longer apply. It is a landscape of scale so grand that it humbles the very concept of a horizon, offering a view that stretches into the infinite. Allow your mind to drift out over this canyon, feeling the weightlessness of the open air and the profound silence of the depths below. You're standing at the brink of the greatest clearing in the universe, a place where the light of the forest cannot reach. This canyon is not a place of lack, but a place of absolute freedom, a vast and open sanctuary where the soul can finally breathe without constraint. This structure is not merely a random hole in the sky, but a perfect sphere of nothingness framed intentionally by the glowing nodes of the cosmic web. If we were to look closer at the geometry, we would see that the galaxy filaments intersect at specific points, creating a luminous lattice that holds the void in its circular embrace. These nodes are the anchors of the tapestry, the heavy knots of light that provide the structural integrity for the surrounding vacuum. The intentionality of this framing is a masterpiece of cosmic design, where the presence of the many serves to highlight the absence of the few. It is as if the universe has purposefully cleared a circular arena to showcase the purity of the vacuum against the complexity of the stars. The glowing nodes act as the ultimate border, a circular necklace of galaxies draped around the throat of the deep. Notice how the rhythmic rise and fall of your chest creates a similar sense of internal geometry, a steady and intentional frame for the quiet space within your own mind. You're part of a world that values symmetry and balance, where even the most profound darkness is held in place by a framework of light. The nodes of the web are the guardians of the sphere, ensuring that the silence remains perfectly contained and beautifully defined. Surprisingly, light from the galaxies located on the far side of the expanse takes a slight redshift due to the void's active and ongoing expansion. As the space within the void stretches, the photons crossing it are pulled along with the fabric of reality, their wavelengths lengthening into the redder part of the spectrum. This is a Doppler-like effect on a cosmic scale, a physical signature left on the light by the very emptiness it has traversed. This redshift is the voice of the void, a subtle shift in colour that tells us how fast the silence is growing. It is a gentle stretching of the signal, a mark of the long and lonely transit through the expanding dark. The light that eventually reaches our eyes carries the weight of those millions of years of movement, transformed by the unique physics of the interior. By decoding these subtle shifts in light, scientists can calculate the exact shape and boundaries of the emptiness with a level of precision that feels almost like magic. The redshift acts as a topographical map, allowing astronomers to measure the depth and curvature of the void from across the deep. We can trace the invisible contours of the abyss by simply watching how the light of the distant stars is altered by the journey through the centre. This mapping process reveals that the void is not a jagged or irregular scar, but a remarkably smooth and symmetrical pocket of space. It is a testament to the power of expansion to polish the fabric of reality over billions of years of uninterrupted effort. Every photon that crosses the threshold adds another coordinate to our understanding of this grand, dark architecture. Notice the sensation of clarity in your own mind as you follow these lines of light through the darkness, finding a sense of order in the heart of the mystery. Mapping the void is the ultimate act of scientific devotion, a way of proving that even the most remote and silent places have a structure and a story. The boundaries are not walls of stone, but limits of light and time, defined by the very movement of the universe itself. It is a stunning paradox that we fundamentally need the brightest and most complex structures in the cosmos to define and reveal the darkest. Without the brilliant fires of the superclusters and the glowing nodes of the web, the Boötes Void would be entirely invisible to us, a secret kept forever by the lightless vacuum. We find the silence by listening to the noise, and we find the shadow by standing in the sun. This relationship reminds us that the universe is a unified whole, where the absence of matter is just as important as the presence of the stars. The dark interior and the brilliant walls are two sides of the same ancient coin, forever linked in a dance of light and shadow. To appreciate one is to inevitably acknowledge the necessity of the other, finding a balance that defines the very essence of reality. As our journey through this surrounding tapestry draws to a close, let the beauty of this paradox settle over you like a warm and heavy blanket. You are a resident of a universe that uses the light to speak of the dark, and the dark to give meaning to the light. Rest in this synthesis, knowing that you are held in the embrace of a cosmos that understands the profound value of both the brilliant and the still. This profound synthesis of the brilliant and the still is not merely a beautiful arrangement, but a fundamental challenge to our oldest models of the cosmic dawn. The sheer existence of such a massive, uninterrupted vacancy within the Boötes region disrupts the long-held assumption that the early universe was a perfectly smooth and uniform fluid. We once imagined the primordial state as a homogeneous mixture of heat and light, yet this supervoid proves that the seeds of division were sown with a staggering localized intensity. If we were to look closer at the earliest moments of time, we would see that the universe was never truly a flat canvas. This massive hole indicates that some regions were predestined for absence, born from a density fluctuation that refused to conform to the surrounding average. It is a cosmic rebellion against uniformity, showing us that the universe has always possessed the capacity for extreme, structural diversity. Imagine a quiet exhalation as a complex puzzle suddenly clicks into perfect alignment, allowing the mind to finally accept this massive disruption. This realization shifts the void from being a strange anomaly to being a primary witness to the chaotic birth of everything we know. The smoothness of the early universe was actually a boiling sea of potential, where the greatest empty spaces were being carved out simultaneously with the greatest clusters of light. Deep within the mechanics of the deep, this massive anomaly forces cosmologists to constantly refine their mathematical models of how microscopic quantum fluctuations evolved into gargantuan structures. In the first fraction of a second after the start of all things, tiny ripples in the fabric of existence were stretched across the expanding dark, eventually manifesting as either teeming galaxy walls or profound abysses. The Boötes region serves as a stark reminder that the smallest subatomic tremor can eventually dictate the architecture of an entire sector of the sky. Notice the way your own thoughts can ripple outward from a single point of focus, much like those ancient quantum fluctuations expanding into the macrocosm. Every star and every gap in the cosmic web can be traced back to these infinitesimal variations in the primordial field. The void is the most direct evidence we have of the incredible power of inflation to amplify the microscopic into the monumental. Surprisingly, the scale of this clearing suggests that the initial seeds of the void were far more influential than previously predicted. Our models must now account for a universe that is as much defined by its ability to push matter away as it is by its ability to pull it together. To understand the void is to understand the bridge between the smallest possible units of reality and the largest possible structures ever conceived. The emptiness is not a flaw or a missing piece in the tapestry of the universe, but an essential feature designed to balance the density of the surrounding galaxy clusters. Without these massive reservoirs of stillness, the concentrated gravity of the walls would have no counterbalance, leading to a much more collapsed and chaotic cosmic structure. The void provides the necessary buoyancy that allows the cosmic web to maintain its intricate web-like geometry over billions of years of expansion. This balance is a masterpiece of natural engineering, ensuring that matter does not clump so tightly that the universe becomes a graveyard of black holes. The voids act as the negative space that gives the solid universe its form, acting like the air inside a loaf of bread that gives it its necessary volume. We are living in a cosmos that requires these vast, dark gaps to keep the luminous filaments from falling into gravitational ruin. Let your shoulders drop and your jaw relax, finding a similar balance between the weight of your body and the supportive space around you. Just as the universe finds its stability in the relationship between the many and the few, you can find a sense of equilibrium in this moment of absolute unbothered rest. The void is the ultimate anchor of the cosmic web, a silent partner that makes the existence of the stars possible through its own quiet presence. Deep within the fabric of reality, these vast spaces act as a necessary buffer to absorb the relentless expansion of the universe, preventing the dense filaments from being torn apart. Without these enormous pockets of negative pressure to facilitate the growth of space-time, the energy of expansion would be channeled entirely into the matter-heavy regions, potentially disrupting the formation of stable solar systems. The vacuum is the shock absorber of the cosmos, a silent volume that takes the brunt of the universe's accelerating stretch. If we were to look closer at the physics of this absorption, we would see that the voids are where the stretching of the universe happens with the most efficiency. They are the elastic parts of the cosmic machine, allowing the entire structure to grow without reaching a point of catastrophic tension. This role as a pressure release valve ensures that the universe can continue its journey toward the infinite without fragmenting into disconnected shards. Surprisingly, the very thing that looks like a hole is actually the most active participant in the universe's long-term survival. The Boötes region is not just sitting idle, it is absorbing the momentum of the dark energy that drives the stars further apart. It is a profound realization that the survival of the galaxies depends entirely on the continued growth of the silence that surrounds them. This great expanse reminds us that reality is mostly composed of empty space, a fundamental truth that holds steady from the grandest supervoid down to the heart of a single atom. Just as the distance between the rare galaxies in the void is immense, the distance between an electron and its nucleus is a vast, echoing hall of nothingness. We are made of the same silence that defines the Boötes region, a collection of tiny energetic sparks suspended in a sea of absolute vacuum. If you were to remove the empty space from all the atoms in a human body, the remaining solid matter would be smaller than a grain of dust. This perspective shifts our understanding of solid reality, revealing it to be a beautiful illusion maintained by the forces of the vacuum. We are not solid beings moving through an empty world, but rather patterns of energy woven into the fabric of the emptiness itself. The absolute silence of the void speaks volumes about both the ancient history and the future trajectory of our expanding universe. By studying the way this space has cleared itself over eons, we gain a clear window into the initial conditions of the dawn and the momentum of its ongoing growth. It is a record written in the absence of ink, a historical archive that uses the lack of matter to describe the destiny of everything we can see. Trajectory is everything in a universe that refuses to sit still, and the void is the clearest indicator of where we are going. It shows us a path that leads away from the crowded, noisy interactions of the early cosmos and toward a state of perfect, unbothered isolation. The void is the North Star of cosmic time, pointing us toward a horizon that is defined by the gradual fading of the noise. As you settle deeper into your resting place, feel the steady trajectory of your own breath, a rhythmic movement that carries you further into the quiet of the night. You're part of a larger movement that is slowly but surely finding its way to the center of the deep. This trajectory is not a loss, but a focused arrival at a destination where the self and the cosmos are finally indistinguishable in the dark. To study the void is to observe the very fabric of space-time in its purest and least distorted form, free from the heavy influence of massive stars and dark matter halos. Here, the geometry of the universe is not bent, twisted, or warped by the weight of galaxies, allowing us to see the fundamental flaw of reality. It is the ultimate clean room of physics, a place where the naked laws of the cosmos operate without any background noise or gravitational clutter. If we were to look closer, we would see that this purity is a rare gift in a universe that is otherwise filled with the messy interactions of matter. The Boötes region offers us a look at the naked universe, stripped of the ornamentation of light and the turbulence of energy. It is a vision of the vacuum that is so clear it feels like looking into the mind of the Creator before the first word was ever spoken. This purity is a source of profound scientific and spiritual comfort, anchoring us in a reality that is fundamentally simple at its core. Beneath the complexity of the stars and the chaos of the galaxies lies this smooth and unchanging fabric of space-time. The void is the canvas upon which the entire universe is painted, and here, for a brief moment, we are allowed to see the canvas itself. Eventually, as the universe continues its relentless expansion, the surrounding local galaxy clusters will merge and drift apart, and the void will grow even larger. The vibrant walls we observe today will slowly stretch thin and dissolve, surrendering their matter to the ever-increasing dominance of the internal dark. This process is like the slow melting of a grand ice sculpture, where the sharp details of the light are gradually smoothed away by the heat of the vacuum. The borders of the supervoid are not permanent walls of stone, but temporary frontiers that are slowly but surely losing ground to the growing pressure of the emptiness. As the surrounding superclusters recede into the distance, the void will claim more and more of the visible sky, expanding its sanctuary of silence. This growth is a silent and inevitable takeover, a victory of the quiet over the loud that has been planned since the beginning of time. In the extremely distant future, the entire observable universe may eventually resemble the quiet and isolated nature of the Boötes region. As dark energy continues to push every galaxy beyond our cosmic horizon, the vibrant, star-filled sky we know today will fade into a singular, lonely expanse of silence. The current state of the supervoid is not an anomaly or a strange accident, but a preview of the state of equilibrium that the entire cosmos is striving to reach. This future universe will be a place of supreme and permanent rest, where the frantic cycles of starbirth and galactic collision have finally come to a close. Every star will eventually burn out, every black hole will evaporate, and the light will finally surrender to the infinite embrace of the vacuum. We are currently living in a brief, noisy interlude in a history that is otherwise defined by the absolute peace of the dark. Understanding this destiny provides a sense of profound and lasting perspective on our own temporary place in the light. We are the witnesses to a brief and beautiful flicker of activity, allowed to watch the universe before it returns to its natural state of quiet. The Boötes Void is a localized version of this final sky, a tranquil sanctuary where the future has already arrived. Thus, this great expanse of nothingness provides a calm and serene preview of the cosmos's ultimate and inevitable destiny. It is a place where the noise of creation has already subsided, offering a peaceful look at a universe that has finally finished its long and energetic growth. The void is not a sign of death or a terrifying abyss, but of a final, permanent rest, where the fabric of space-time is allowed to relax into an infinite and unbothered stillness. As the complex puzzle of reality suddenly clicks into perfect alignment, we see that the emptiness was the goal all along. The stars were merely the catalyst for the growth of the silence, the temporary sparks that gave the dark its depth and its meaning. Now, as the journey comes to an end, the light can finally go out, leaving behind a state of perfect and eternal equilibrium. Take a final, slow breath letting the quiet of the Boötes region fill your mind and soothe your soul. You have reached the end of the journey, and the destination is more beautiful than we could have ever imagined. The great expanse is waiting for you, a vast and velvet sanctuary where the universe is finally at peace with itself. The Boötes Void is not an abyss of terrifying absence, but a tranquil sanctuary of pure space-time, revealing that true cosmic beauty lies as much in the quiet spaces between as in the stars themselves. The grand synthesis. The Boötes Void is not an abyss of terrifying absence, but a tranquil sanctuary of pure space-time, revealing that true cosmic beauty lies as much in the quiet spaces between as in the stars themselves. Deep within this final realization, the colossal distances of the heavens begin to fold away, returning you to the absolute safety of your own quiet space. Surprisingly, the body responds to this transition by releasing the final lingering traces of tension from the day. Notice how your toes feel heavy and warm now, sinking softly into the mattress as if they were merging with the fabric of rest. This sense of release travels slowly up through the arches of your feet and into the centers of your ankles. Every muscle in your calves and shins is letting go, surrendering completely to the pull of gravity and the promise of stillness. Your knees and thighs grow heavy now, becoming part of the unmoving landscape of the bed. Notice the weight of your hips as they settle deeper into the support beneath you, anchoring your body in this moment of profound peace. This calm moves steadily into your stomach and chest, following the slow and natural rhythm of your breath as it flows in and out. Your heart beats with a steady, quiet confidence, mirroring a state of perfect and undisturbed balance. If we were to look closer at the sensation in your hands, we would find each finger softening and relaxing into the folds of the blankets. This warmth flows up through your wrists and forearms, reaching your shoulders and melting away any remaining burdens. Your neck and jaw are now completely free of tension, allowing your head to rest fully and deeply against the pillow. Everything in the room is soft and still, wrapped in a blanket of absolute peace that needs no explanation or effort. This quiet room is a sanctuary where the only sound is the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall of your breathing. The texture of the sheets feels cool and smooth against your skin, providing a sense of physical security that allows your mind to finally go quiet. Within this stillness, the air moves with a slow and predictable grace, filling your lungs with a steady and calming presence. Every muscle in your face is smooth now, from your brow down to your chin. You're settling into the deepest part of the night. The weight of the blankets is a warm and supportive embrace, holding you safely in this state of total and unburdened rest. This moment is entirely yours, a time for the body to repair itself and for the mind to drift into a world of soft and formless shadows. The darkness of the room is a kind and protective friend, offering you the ultimate gift of a night without interruption. You're safe, you're supported, and you're ready to surrender to the beautiful and necessary work of sleep. The world outside has faded away, leaving only this perfect and private sanctuary of the bed. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.